and the part 3 of Boeheim versus Coach K. So a lot of great stuff coming up here. Appreciate you being here as always, and thank you so much for being a part of the show. With that being said, I proudly welcome into the Cafe Kubal Studios our first guest of the day, and that is Mr. JB Reafsnyder. JB, how are we doing today?
Doing great, Dan. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well, and JB, kind of first and foremost, I mean, you and I had the opportunity to speak on some things last night, kind of, instantaneously when everything was going on. Now that you've slept and had some time to marinate, how are you doing with this Buddy Boeheim 1 game suspension?
Um, I don't agree with it. But I don't play in today's game. I mean, that was just a no nothing physical kind of contact during a basketball game that happened all the time back in our Big East days. And my biggest problem is there was no foul call. There was no stop a play, go to the replay. It's all after the fact, well after the game. Social media, TV personalities start talking and saying it should be a suspension. That just puts a lot of pressure on, the ACC, just like in other sports, when you start getting all this kind of publicity out there of something needs to be done. And unfortunately, Buddy got suspended. I don't think what he did warrants a suspension. I don't think I'm alone in that camp. But it is what it is, and the Cuse are still going to have to lace them up and go out there against a tough Duke team without Buddy today and, see if we can pull out a victory.
Yeah, and JB, I mean, you played in the old Big East, and you had punch down dragouts with Pitt, with Villanova, with UConn, with Georgetown, Seton Hall, and so on and so forth. The way the game used to be, how would you describe it? Because, I mean, John Wallace would tell me, he's like, hey, Dan, he's like, I would run down the floor before the ref got down the floor so that I could go out there. And he was like, I'd get down the floor before anybody could see me. I'd get set, I'd elbow the guy, and I'd work my way to get open. And so, he'd go down there and make sure that he gave somebody a physical shot so that he could command the ball and whatnot. I mean, this used to be how things were played. I remember watching games against UConn and the Georgetown games and the Pitt games and whatnot. It was always scrappy. There were hits and this, that, and the other. I remember in the Big East, there might be 3 fouls called. In today's game, there would have been 37. So, bring me into that. The fact that, when you played in the old Big East, not saying that punching somebody in the gut is right, and not saying that, what Wyatt Wilkes did beforehand was right about contact and Buddy and kind of baiting him in a way, or at least trying to let him know that he was there. Back in the day, that was normal. And back in the day, if someone had created contact like Wyatt did, then Buddy would have been allowed by the refs to kind of even the score, and then the refs would be like, all right, that's enough. So bring me into the old game, because the old game, they would have let you get even, and then they'd have you move on.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, first and foremost, I never condone punching of anybody as a form of retaliation. But there are ways that we used to go about getting even or establishing position, whether it's running down and when you're turning, you're just pivoting, but your elbow's up while you're pivoting. And so you're not throwing an elbow, you're just turning your body, which is a legal move. And if somebody's sternum or face is in the way as your elbow's coming through, that's a legal move. I'm not intentionally throwing it at somebody or hitting them in the chest and then doing a reverse pivot like John used to do, or Otis or myself, to seal the man and stuff. But you're also, you're not doing it out in the open. You're doing it during the course of the game. But the officials understood that physical play. I mean, that's what made, besides all the great talent that used to play in the Big East, it was, of the leagues, one of the more physical leagues to play in compared to some of the others back in the day. The officials understood that, and they let it go. And yes, they would call fouls, but it didn't lead to suspensions, especially if they never saw one foul. I mean, like yesterday, they didn't call anything. So it was a play on. Even Coach Hamilton and Wyatt, didn't think much of it after the game. So I don't know. It's so different to watch how games are officiated now. I like the physicality part of the game. I wish they would tighten up other fundamental aspects of the game, whether it's the carrying of the ball, the traveling, and stuff like that, and let the game still remain physical, especially for the big men. I understand, out top, middle of the floor, guiding somebody with your hands, hand checking and stuff, but let banging go on down low. If someone runs in and hits me, I should be able to hit him back, and there's no consequences going forward. If it was a punch to the face, kind of like the NBA has, neck and above, shoulders and above, well, yeah, okay, I can understand that. But a hit into the chest, stomach area, it's a play on, in my opinion. But that's just the world I come from. So that's why it makes it very difficult for me to watch the NBA game today, where you can't even breathe on somebody without it being a foul.
Yeah.
I'm just not used to that. I don't like it. I just don't like how the game's officiated these days. But, again, there was a no call yesterday, so I'm fine with the officiating on that call yesterday. It's just after the fact, everybody having their opinions of what should happen and the pressure it puts on these conferences to make a decision.
Well, and I think that that's where, we are as a society is, it was a no call. And then the officials go back and look at it and say, oh, okay, well, now it's worthy of a suspension. I think that's what throws a lot of people off, is the fact that this wasn't a foul, it wasn't seen, it wasn't called, it wasn't a normal foul, it wasn't a flagrant one, it wasn't anything, it wasn't a technical, and then it's like, okay, it's a suspension. So it went from nothing to a suspension. And I think that that's the thing that, makes people stop, because you didn't call anything on the floor, and now you're saying, wow, the thing that we didn't call on the floor was so egregious that it has to be a suspension. And I think the question to a lot of people is, okay, so the official didn't see anything on the floor, but you saw it on Twitter, and then he got suspended. And how do we go from nothing to suspension, I think, is a problem that a lot of people are having right now.
Yeah, I am in that camp for sure. It drives me crazy seeing in other sports. For example, in golf, when a ball moves a millimeter, player can't even see it, but now you have people calling in from TV because the TV is slowing it down so much that the people can see it move. So now they're calling in during the tournament. The player's getting deducted a penalty. I mean, that's happened in some big cases, big golf tournaments. If anything, maybe they could have said it should have been called a flagrant one.
Yeah.
No, I think the difference is, and correct me if I'm wrong, flagrant one is unnecessary physical contact, and flagrant two is unnecessary and excessive. I don't know if this is excessive. This is, if you look at the totality of the circumstances, getting pushed, hit the plays before, right before them when Wyatt crashes into him. I mean, okay, maybe it's unnecessary. So you have a happy medium. You say, oh, we missed it, should have been a flagrant one, and everybody, let's just move on and get ready to play the next game in the ACC tournament.
Yeah, and you said it. When you're, looking at the difference between flagrant one and flagrant two, one is considered unnecessary contact, a flagrant two is unnecessary and excessive. And so, and that can result in ejection and a possible suspension. So, allegedly, by what they did, it looks like they went back and reviewed this and said that should have been called a flagrant two, and now he's suspended. But the thing was, it wasn't called. And I want to be clear about the fact that, Duke and North Carolina, you've talked about stuff in the past. I'd love for you to, bring up the Eric Montrose thing. But, Duke and North Carolina, Grayson Allen, I mention this because I covered Grayson Allen, and I covered, I've covered Duke for the better part of pretty much a decade now, on site, on location in some respect, and seeing what Grayson Allen did, and I'm not saying two wrongs make a right. I'm just putting it out here. Grayson Allen either had involuntary muscle spasms every time somebody went by him, or he tripped people. And I remember the last time that we were in the Barclays for the ACC tournament years ago, when there was, back-to-back years. That second year that we were here, Grayson was doing that. And it happened over and over. And we watched it on video over and over. And we watched the leg go out over and over. And that no call, no call, no call, no call, no suspension. And so I look back at that and I say, okay, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If Buddy Boeheim, turns around and punches a guy in the stomach after the guy's been contacting him, and Buddy kind of like checks him and lets him know, like, hey, knock it off. Grayson Allen didn't do a reactive, hey, knock it off. Grayson Allen did a preemptive strike, a preemptive, I'm going to trip you, I'm going to trip you, I'm going to trip you, I'm going to trip you. And over and over again, multiple games, you watch this thing happen, and you look at this and you say to yourself, unless he's having involuntary muscle spasms, unless his leg just kicks out randomly, this is what he's doing. This is how he plays the game. And it wasn't called here at the ACC tournament. It wasn't called here at the Barclays Center, and it wasn't called in general. And so my question is, if Buddy played for Duke, would we be talking about anything this morning? I guess that's the question.
That's a great question. I would hope that the Duke fans would be complaining that Buddy, as a Dookie, I can't even imagine that or fathom it, but let's say he was, shouldn't be suspended. It was a no-nothing play. It wasn't like when Montrose is standing there shooting a free throw with blood streaming down his face, or Tyler Hansborough gets his nose broken from a blatant elbow, and has his face bloody and everything. The players that did that got a one-game suspension, and deservedly so. I mean, it was hits to the face, blood on TV, running down the face and everything. And, you can't hit somebody in the face. But I would hope it'd be called the same, but, you never know. We are not the I listened to your call with Otis yesterday, and it was a great show, by the way. And I always love hearing my good friend and teammate Big O's take on things. But we were one of the darlings of the Big East back in the day.
Yeah.
We are not a darling in the ACC. That ACC has been run by Duke and North Carolina for years. That's their show. They're the top rivalry in that conference. And sometimes things seem to go their way when I don't know the term, sanctions are coming down, or plays like this are reviewed and everything like that. I would hope it'd be called the same, but we know life is not always fair in every instance. So I do think, like you and I were talking earlier before we got on this call, that I think Coach K would want Buddy to play today.
Yeah.
I think Coach K wants to say, I want teams to put their best team and best foot forward, and see what we can do.
Well, and the thing is, too, is, Coach K's been friends with Jim Boeheim for so many years. Their kids know each other, and obviously Coach K knows Buddy on a personal level and knows Jimmy on a personal level, and, that goes beyond basketball. So, to me, I'm sure that Coach K will probably make a comment after the game. I'm sure Jim Boeheim will make a comment after the game. And, and that's just... that's reality. And I await what those comments are going to be, but I'm sure that something's going to be coming forward. To go to the game here itself, part 3 of Duke versus Syracuse, these were not fun games to watch if you're a Syracuse fan this season. I told my mom in their first game when they went to Cameron Indoor and they were out there playing on the road, I literally said to her as I looked at the television, I said, they're going to lose by 30 today. And they went down by 30, lost by 20. And then Duke came to the Dome, and Syracuse, got blown out again, worse. So here's part 3. Coach K just got defeated in his home at his final game in Cameron Indoor against his rival North Carolina that he has a record of 50-47 against. That day, he called it unacceptable, and he was not happy about it. I know that Duke under Coach K is a dangerous team. Now, with him having to endure a loss on the day that they were honoring his legacy, to me, this man is a buzzsaw. I would not want to be in front of it, and Syracuse is. So what is your thought of the fact that Duke was not only extremely good against Syracuse and most this year, but now they're playing a Coach K that is a little bit pissed, very hungry for another national championship, and now Syracuse is the next team in front of them. What are your thoughts?
Well, and we're missing Buddy, our top scorer.
Yeah, and the top scorer of the ACC.
And top scorer of the ACC and our leader. I think it's going to be a tough road today for the Orange. It comes down to, and I follow everybody's opinions on social media and stuff, and they hate the 2-3 zone and want to change things up, and it's been too long running this kind of system. Leonard Hamilton said it yesterday. He hopes the Florida State fans don't let the poor shooting performance by Florida State yesterday, dampen their spirits about the future of the program.
Yeah.
But it's going to happen. And we've climbed many mountains before and pulled off upsets. And they can do it today. Joe will light it up from three-point range. Jimmy will have some extra motivation because his younger brother isn't able to go today. So we'll see what happens. But, they throw the ball, they toss the ball up at the beginning of the game, and then it's up to those players on the court to get it done.
Yeah.
And we'll see what we can do. I do think, the loss of Jesse, I think, really hurt our team down the stretch. I mean, we went 2-5 to close out the season, losing him. So, we just lose his presence in the middle, his scoring, his rebounding, shot blocking. But,
we could call DT.com your one-stop sport.
Yeah, it's it's going to definitely be an interesting road to hoe here and see what we can do as this all, comes about. And knowing that, they're coming off of such a huge victory, for the team, what did you see from that respect of it? I mean, do you think that Syracuse is essentially playing their best basketball right now, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think they're playing better. I mean, yes, did we have a bunch of losses towards the end of the season? We did. But, some of that is in part to, and in those games, we shot terrible from the three-point line. 8 of 26 against the Hoyas, 5 of 29 against Duke from the three-point line, 6 of 31 from the three-point line against win streak before all that. If we're hitting the three ball, making 10 or 11 a game, we win those 6 games that we lost by 5 or less. And our record's completely flipped. Maybe people are talking about us not having to run the table of the ACC tournament to get into the big dance. So yesterday, I think the zone moved really well. We shot the ball well. Keep that momentum going into today's game. I think just like Coach K, had the motivation of it was unacceptable losing to North Carolina in our last game and playing with a chip on our shoulder. We're coming in off a really good performance yesterday to keep that momentum rolling into today's game. So I don't expect it to be a blowout, like the 30 or 20 point games. I expect it to be competitive, and we'll see what happens.
That coming from JB Reafsnyder here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. Who do you have as your X factor today with Buddy being out?
I think it's going to come down to Joe's shooting. Joe is somebody who, he's not. I wouldn't call him. He's not a traditional point guard. He's more of an off guard, right? Catch and shoot, let it fly. But if he can find space and he can get on a roll from three, I'm not comparing him to Jerry McNamara by any means, but we all remember that great game Mac had where he lit it up from three to start off a game and really spark the team. And Joe's somebody that has that ability. We need Cole to keep doing what Cole does and play like he did yesterday. But I really think if Joe can put some pressure on them from deep and is making the threes, that's going to open up the game for Jimmy to penetrate, to back to the basket, and pound away on the inside.
That coming here from JB Reafsnyder on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. A team that's going to have to move forward without their leader on the court, as if they needed anything else going up against Duke. So with that being said, Syracuse fighting here in the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. I'll be on site on location for the game, and you can be sure to follow me on Facebook at WakeUpCallDT, Twitter at CallDT, and Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT from the tip-off all the way through the close and beyond. As always, JB, I appreciate having you here, appreciate you being on the show, and definitely miss you and the guys out there on the floor. So look forward to talking with you soon as always, and thank you for taking some time with me today.
My pleasure, anytime, and great talking to you too, Dan.
All right, take care of yourself and say hi to the family, okay?
Syracuse, great hi for me. You have a great lineup today.
I will, sir. I definitely will. And you being a part of that 1996 team, every single person on that roster, always near and dear to my heart. So thank you for all you did.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Bye.
That coming from JB Reafsnyder once again here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. We'll take a step aside for a fast break. We'll come back with Katie Kolinski, who spent 7 years on the Syracuse Orange men's basketball staff with Jim Boeheim and the crew. She'll talk about Syracuse basketball right after this, inside the Cafe Cubal studios. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout Central and Upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. As a patient, what do we want? To be cared for, to be listened to, and to have someone walk us through the process on our path to victory. Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics does all of those things beautifully, with Dr. Mark Petropoli leading the team on 791 West Genesee Street in Skaneateles, New York, located minutes from beautiful Skaneateles Lake. Whatever your injury may be from head to toe, preventative care, rehab, physical therapy, laser therapy, and surgery are all available at Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, where they care about us, they listen to us, and they understand that everyone's path to victory is a little bit different. Let them help you on yours by calling 315-685-7544 to make your appointment today. That's 315-685-7544. And find out more information at victorysportsmedicine.com. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt from inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. Proud to be here with you as we are here covering the ACC tournament, the Big East tournament, and from afar covering the American Athletic Conference tournament. Plenty going on here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside the Cafe Kubal Studios. You got to fill your cup up right. I need some Cafe Kubal right now. This morning they need to somehow get a cup of that chai down to me here in Brooklyn. But very happy to be here with you inside of MonPosPopcorn.com's What's Poppin', a full slate of guests talking about Syracuse Orange men's basketball this morning. You just heard from JB Reafsnyder, who was part of that Final Four team and championship game team in 1996. And now it's time to jump to our conversation with Katie Kolinski. Katie Kolinski with Lafayette as an assistant coach right now, doing her thing, and had spent years with Jim Boeheim and the crew with Syracuse Orange men's basketball, making history as a woman on this staff and everything that she got to do here. So with that being said, I proudly welcome my friend, an incredible mom, and the only person to watch a Toronto Raptors championship with, Miss Katie Kolinski. Katie, how are we doing?
Dan, I appreciate you always, having me on your show, and I could talk Syracuse basketball for days, so I'm excited.
Yeah, and we have the opportunity to have that conversation today, and just what's your? I'm going to kind of just open it up to you and let you roll with it here. What have been, your thoughts in the last, less than 24 hours of everything that happened? Syracuse wins by almost 40. Buddy Boeheim is all over social media. Buddy gets suspended. And now at noon today, Syracuse will be taking on Duke. There's a lot of things that happen in less than 24 hours. Arguably, Syracuse played their best game of the season and then lost their best player all within 24 hours.
I know. It was, I watched the game live from my TV, and it was awesome to see them come out with the firepower they did. Knowing Coach Boeheim, what he probably told the team during the week and what he did during practice to get them ready mentally, for this ACC tournament, you could tell they were putting it into place. And, you knew this team was going to take some time because they lost like half their roster last year. So you have transfers coming in, and in that aspect that, it's not going to happen overnight, and they're finally playing their best basketball. Well, I felt like they were right before Jesse got injured, and I think they win a couple more games down the stretch if they had Jesse. So that was an unfortunate turn for them, but, they still came out with that firepower yesterday, and they were connecting on all cylinders, and they got Symir back, and Symir came into the lineup pushing in transition, finding open guys in transition, letting, Joe play the 2, moves Cole to the 4 a little bit more, with Jimmy being in foul trouble. And it was fun, to watch them just playing confidently the way they did. So that's what I have to say about the game. Obviously the whole Buddy thing is a different story. So...
Yeah, and it's tough. It's tough to see something like this happen and see it go down like this. I mean, if this is in fact his final game as a Syracuse basketball player, I think that's the thing that hurts the most.
Yeah, I think, I worked with Syracuse men's basketball from 2012 all the way up to like 2017 or like 2011 up to 2017, 2018, so I got to see Buddy grow up. And, I've said this from day one about Buddy. I don't think the kid could hurt a fly. Like he's the nicest kid I've ever met in my life. He's never said a bad word about anybody. All the kid does is put his head down and work. He's worked his way into being a Division I basketball player. He's worked his way into being a pro. And, to see the ACC put the ruling down the way they did, this is what I always say about people that make the decisions in college basketball. A lot of them never played the game, so they have no idea about the heat of the moment in the game. So you have people making decisions on, things they can't even relate to, in my opinion, so when you play the game, you understand the heat of the game. Even the Florida State player said, like, hey, listen, like, it was the heat of the moment. I hit him pretty hard, and he hit me back. Like that. It was a bang-bang play, moving on. Should they have reviewed it during the game? 100%, but they didn't. But it shouldn't be a ruling after the game on something that wasn't even looked at during the game. When you have people like Greenberg and them on, TV, they're friends with Coach Boeheim. They know Buddy personally since the kid has grown up. And for them to go out there and say he should be suspended like that, I think, I don't think that's really, the right thing to be saying either. When you know who Buddy is and you know who Coach Boeheim is. And I think it was all blown way out of proportion on social media and through the conversations. And I think Buddy should be playing today, honestly.
Speaking here with Katie Kolinski, who spent 7 years on Syracuse's Orange men's basketball staff and obviously has seen Buddy grow up. Katie, I've been around Buddy for at least 6 years, and I've never experienced anyone other than a humble, kind, caring, appreciative man of his word. And I put out a post yesterday, and the post was very simple. And it said, anyone who's questioning Buddy's character doesn't know Buddy Boeheim. And, the world that we live in today where you can do one thing and have that one move, like he didn't go kill somebody. It's like, was it right to do what Wyatt did? No. Was it right for Buddy to retaliate? No. And I look out and I said, anyone who's questioning Buddy Boeheim's character doesn't know Buddy Boeheim. Why do we feel in society today to take a very tiny piece of someone's life and judge their entire existence on it? May they who are sinless and mistake-free cast the first stone. We live in a society today that is simply that. You make one mistake 18 years ago, and you're not allowed to live the rest of your life without being chastised for it. What can you say about social media's play in this? And if we didn't have Twitter and TikTok and all this stuff, I think we live in a world where Buddy might not have been suspended.
Yeah, I just think, like I said, I think the whole thing was blown out of proportion. I've seen, like, the Florida State player even said, I've been hit worse during games. Like, that was nothing. Like, it's not like Buddy squared up in his face and was like, just punched him in his face and started a big brawl during the game, or went into the stands and started punching fans. Like, it was a reaction moment of him getting hit. And should he have done it? 100% no. And Buddy knows he shouldn't have done it because that's who Buddy is. Like, Jim and Julie have done such a good job raising all of their children. They are the nicest, most humble. They just want to help people. Buddy wants to help everybody. Buddy loves the fans. Buddy loves Syracuse. Like, the kid is one of the nicest kids I've ever met in my life, and he made one little mistake. Should he have done it? No. But like I said, the heat of the moment, and when you're in that moment, it's so easy to say after the moment that you shouldn't do something, you know, and he's probably getting tired of getting hit all the time. Like, he probably gets hit more than anyone in every game, and then finally it's like, all right, enough is enough, y'all. Like, you're not going to hit me like that. You're not going to, you know, think you can lower your shoulder into me while you're boxing me out, because that's how people get hurt, you know? So, you know, at some point, Buddy's probably like, enough is enough, and, you know, obviously he wants that play back, but I think social media just took the whole thing way, way, way out of proportion. You know, even Florida State's coach said, you know, it wasn't that big of a deal. I support Buddy. Like, he should be playing tomorrow. The Florida State player who it happened to said he should be playing tomorrow. So these upper people that have just watched social media and watched, you know, it all go down have decided he shouldn't be playing. And, you know, that's their decision. You know, they have rules. You know, the ACC can do what the ACC needs to do. But at the end of the day, I think it was all just blown way out of proportion.
Yeah, you know, and I think, again, it's knowing who he is, you know, and it's knowing the content of his character and knowing that, and like you said, I mean, I'm sure he's gotten hit harder too. You know, there is still the reality of, hey, go up to, and I'm not saying that Florida State did this at all yesterday. I'm saying this as just a general statement, but there is the reality of, hey, that's their best player, that's their best shooter. Hey, bump him a little bit. Hey, when you foul him a little bit harder, because, you know, you want to get him to a point where he's hurt. Maybe he can't shoot well. Maybe he's not as comfortable. You know, you jab him in the ribs. Maybe he doesn't raise up and shoot as well as he does. So there is that reality of that. And I'm not saying that Florida State did that at all. I want to be clear. I'm not saying that. I like Leonard Hamilton. I'm not saying anything about Wyatt Wilkes. I'm just making a comment here that, you know, Buddy this season may have gotten hit like that, and he may have everybody's got a breaking point. And Jim said it in the post game. He goes, the guy pushed him twice. You can't let somebody push you around. Now, there's a lot of layers here. Is it wrong to hit somebody? 1,000,000%. Is it wrong to let your emotions get the best of you? 100%. Is it wrong to be somebody who is thinking in that moment about, you know, yourself and not your team? 100% that's wrong. At the same time, does everybody have a breaking point where they're like, you know what, I'm sick and tired of this garbage? Maybe in Buddy's head, he's like, this is the 392nd time I got hit like this season, and I'm over it. And in that moment, he reacted. You know, but he is the nicest guy in the world. And I know that. And I know how he was feeling after. And I didn't have to check social media because him and I have a very good relationship. So I know that this is a guy who's remorseful. You made a statement to me that, you know, him coming out with a public apology may have affected things. What's that angle of it, and how do you see that in the world of social media we live in today, that Buddy being a nice guy, again, somehow got him in trouble?
Yeah, I just think, like, you know, knowing Buddy, you know, he wanted to do the right thing and let people know, like, listen, like, I know I messed up. I know it shouldn't have happened and it'll never happen again, but, you know, he kind of admitted to doing it, you know, in a way. And I'm sure the ACC looked at that, you know, his statement saying, oh, well, now he's admitting that he did something wrong, so now we have to punish him. And, you know, maybe it didn't affect it, maybe it did. Who knows? You know, we really don't know. I'm not in the, you know, I'm not there making these decisions. Like, I'm just outsider looking in, just watching as a fan, you know, at this rate. But I think, you know, it went one or two ways, and they decided that they were going to suspend him, and unfortunately he owned up to it. But at the same time, that's who Buddy is, and that just shows his character, and that shows that, you know, he wanted everyone to know that, you know, he's sorry for it. And, you know, maybe today Syracuse decides that they're going to still play on with 6 scholarship guys, and Samir starts at the point, and they just play, and, you know, maybe they upset Duke just because of it. Who knows? You know, we really don't know. Or, you know, they could get blown out by 30. You know, it's just one of those games where, you know, you feel okay about the game with Buddy playing, and now you got to hope that more people can step up and, you know, see what can happen.
Yeah, you know, and you know the family, you know the Boeheims, you know Buddy, you know Jimmy. So, you know, to know that people question his character. I mean, I sat in the post-game press conference yesterday, and when I was sitting there in that room, it took everything inside of me to not have a very big problem with the way that the media, they are who they are. And I always tell people I'm media by definition, but not by, it says it on my badge, but I most certainly have a higher content of character, and I definitely live in a very moral based world. And one of the questions that went to them was to Cole and to Joe of like, do you think Buddy's a good person? What can you say about, who he is? And I just remember during the conversation, I remember Cole shaking his head and kind of smiling, but that uncomfortable smile. And he looked at Joe, and Joe was kind of just staring off. And then Cole said, he goes, like it really hurts us to like hear people even ask about his character when we know who he is as a person. What can you say to that part of it? Here are these guys in a 39-point victory that want to talk about how great the game was and how great they're feeling and moving forward, and to have somebody say, hey, do you think Buddy's a good person? And the look on Cole's face was priceless to, he looked like a kid who grew up with Buddy, and they did. I mean, they got to play against each other growing up. This isn't the first time they've been around each other. And Cole just genuinely looked like, how could you say that? And Joe just stared off like, I can't even like acknowledge the fact that was said.
Oh yeah, that's just silly. That's the silliest question I think I've ever heard. Like I said, knowing Buddy for the last 10 years, the kid couldn't even hurt a fly. Like the kid, he's just so nice. Like sometimes you want him to be like that. Like it's like, finally, Buddy, like finally you showed you have a little like oomph in you, like that's what we were waiting for. Like, fight back, because he's so nice, and obviously he can score 30 on you, and he doesn't play nice all the time. He plays with a fire in him, but sometimes you want him to have a little bit more fire because he's so nice. And that's just so silly. It shouldn't even be a conversation, to be honest. They are the nicest family I've ever met. Julie's the nicest. His sister is the nicest person ever, Sissy. They're just good people. Coach Boeheim's sister, she's good people. Like, they're all just good people, and, they do the right thing. And, unfortunately, one little mistake happened in the game. But, again, I know he made a mistake, but I don't really look at it as, like, to attack his character. The kid is, like, he's just a role model. Like, he's the type of kid that you want your daughter dating. He's that type of kid. I think people can just let it go. It happened yesterday. People want to keep talking about it. It's done and over with. Move forward. We all make mistakes in our lives. We probably all made worse mistakes than that. So, let's be a little easy on people, because I'm sure we're all going to make more mistakes, even in the next tomorrow, we got to be a little bit more forgiving in our society, because none of us are perfect, and there's bigger issues going on in the world than what happened yesterday during Syracuse's game. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, I'm like, man, gas is $4 in Syracuse right now. I got problems.
I can't even worry about Buddy, because I have my own issues going on right now. It's not, I don't know. People just put too much into other people's lives and what they're doing. And, he's a great person, and he's going to always look out for the Syracuse community. He's always going to look out for the younger generation, and he's going to do things the right way. So that's the way I look at it.
And the problem with social media is, because social media exists, people believe that they have a right to pry into your personal life and talk about it. Katie, final note here to move forward. Bring me into your thoughts on Syracuse. Obviously, Jim Boeheim said exactly how I felt. He said, hey, we can hang with anybody this season except for Duke. That team's just better than we are. And they have beat them convincingly both times. What are your thoughts on Coach K, Jim Boeheim Part 3? And just what your overall take is on Syracuse this season, as, again, the opinions have come out of Jim Boeheim's not good enough. And I look back and I go, okay, but for 45 years he's had a winning season. How many coaches can say they haven't had a losing season in 4.5 decades? So, your thoughts.
It's the peanut gallery. Coach Boeheim is a legend in the game. He's one of the best coaches in the whole country. They had an off year, but in reality, the team he had this year with the transfers and stuff, they probably should have like 10 wins, to be honest with you. But, Coach Boeheim does what Coach Boeheim does. He gets people playing in March. He doesn't have Buddy today. I think they would compete with Duke, possibly beat Duke today if Buddy plays. Syracuse basketball, like, it's an honor to have that many winning seasons and to be a part of that. And, Coach Boeheim is phenomenal, and people are going to miss him when he's gone. And, 5 years from now, we're going to be like, dang, we should appreciate Coach Boeheim and what he did, because you know how many teams in the country wish that they had the success Coach Boeheim has had. Every single one of them, minus the Kentuckys and the Dukes. Maybe Gonzaga. Other than that, teams would want to have his Sweet 16s, his Final Fours, his Elite Eight appearances, all in the last even 10 years. So only one team each year can win a national championship. There's plenty of teams in the country that have never even won one. Coach Boeheim has done that, and people don't realize how hard that is. You could have one off shooting night in basketball, and your day is done. So I give Coach Boeheim all the respect in the world. He should be able to retire when he wants to retire. He has that privilege. He has earned that right, and I support Coach Boeheim 100%. So that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, and I tell people all the time, I'm like, if he don't retire this year, he's going to die in the chair. You know what? Like, he wants to coach till he's 90, then he's going to coach till he's 90. But Katie, as always, I appreciate it. I appreciate everything that you've done for basketball. Appreciate everything that you have done in general to be a representation of what hard work, dedication, and determination is. The fight that you have in you, professionally and personally, I respect it. I value it very much. And I remember, with Syracuse being in the NCAA tournament, and you were finishing up your time at Syracuse, and we kind of crossed paths, and I said hello. And it was kind of, hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? We didn't really know each other that well. And then, like I said, to spend one of the greatest moments of my life when it comes to the Toronto Raptors winning a championship, sit next to you. I have tremendous respect for you and what you've done. You have blossomed into an amazing friend for me, and I value, your thoughts and who you are. So thank you for the mom you are, the coach you are, the friend you are. And I look forward to everything that is to come. And I really just want to take the time to let the world know that if they don't know Katie Kolinski, they better get to know Katie Kolinski, because I firmly look forward to the day where you get to be the head coach of a program or whatever you want to do. I'm excited for it, and just very thankful that we got to become friends in this crazy world.
No, Dan, I always appreciate you. I always respect the work that you do. And, all we can do is just keep going in this life and, hope people do it with the kindness of their hearts. So, I appreciate you as well. And I look forward to, our next talk on the show.
And let's get another championship, man. This Raptors thing is hurting me, man. So,
I know. It's coming. People just got to have patience. It takes time. So, it'll be there again.
Well, thank you as always. Say hi to your daughter, and I look forward to talking with you soon.
All right, Dan. We'll talk soon.
All right, take care.
Bye.
That coming from Katie Kolinski once again here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. We'll take a step aside for a fast break, and we will be back. Thank you for everybody that's gone with us here on our beautiful internet. The internet has been good all week, and it's been a little dicey today. So thank you for being with us here as Wake Up Call is on the road and covering the Big East tournament, the ACC tournament on site, on location, and then also having the opportunity to cover the American Athletic Conference tournament, which starts today, from afar. So awesome stuff we get to do. Very excited to do it. And we will take a step aside for a fast break here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. When we spin back around, we'll be joined by Danny Schayes. Danny Schayes, Syracuse Orange basketball alum, right after this. Fast break from inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt. Proud to be with you from inside of the Cafe Kubal studios as we are here traveling and on the road inside of where sports meets life here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora in Brooklyn and in the Manhattan area, as well as we have the opportunity to cover the Big East tournament as well as the ACC tournament on site, on location. Of course, I will be there for the Syracuse-Duke game and was there yesterday with Syracuse's arguable best game of the season, winning by 39 over Florida State. So a lot of great stuff coming up here from the Big Apple with the orange in the apple. Very excited to bring you that, as well as everything with the ACC and the Big East, and of course the American Athletic from afar. With that being said, inside of MonPazPopcorn.com is what's popping. We have a jam-packed show for you today. You've heard from JB Reafsnyder and Katie Kolinski. It's now time to get into my conversation with one of the greatest ever to put on a Syracuse jersey, and that is Mr. Danny Schayes. And Danny, everything that he did at Syracuse and beyond, here with us this morning. Danny, how you doing today?
Well, there's good news and bad news, as you know, and so yes, we had one of the great victories in the ACC tournament history since Syracuse has been there these last 9 years, but it didn't come without a major cost, and now it really changes the outlook for today.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think coming out of this, I know coming out of this game when I went into the post-game press conference, I was thinking to myself, okay, you know what? Cole had another big game, had almost 30 in the game. Joe got to play the 2, which is what I've been saying all season. I think Symir should be at the 1, and Joe should be able to set up for a shot instead of having to look for other people, because that's not really Joe's game. And there's different things that are going on in my head that I want to discuss with Jim Boeheim and whatnot. And, of course, what takes the cake is, of course, people wanting to talk about Buddy and about the situation and about whether or not he deserves to be suspended, and then show Jim Boeheim, look at the footage, look at what's going on. And So I mean that's what kind of overtook it, and it's a great unfortunate because this should be a huge positive stamp for Syracuse on the season, and instead there was this giant ominous cloud that was over it. Your take on that, the fact that, like you said, a great win, but it didn't come without a cost. You played in a very physical era of basketball. You played at a time where if somebody bumped you or did something toward you, the refs would, let you guys kind of square it off, get even, and then move forward. The game has changed drastically. Punching somebody in the gut is never a good thing, and it's never right, and Buddy knows that. At the same time, Wyatt slamming into him also is not right. So, back in the day, if that was old Syracuse basketball, and just basketball in general in the country, college basketball, we would be seeing hits like that, reactions like that, and that was normal life. It was normal for Pearl and Patrick Ewing, normal for you, normal for Billy Owens, Derek Coleman, normal for John Wallace. So what's your take on the fact that, something that looked like it was a reactionary move ended up costing Syracuse greatly?
Clearly the end does not justify the means, right? The penalty is way out of proportion with the act. If it trips some kind of rule that requires them to suspend them, it's obviously a bad rule. You mentioned, and I hate to go back to, in our era, we A, B, and C, but the reality was it was a nothing play. And that's the reality of it. And, 2 years ago, the COVID year, Syracuse, goes into the tournament, has a big win against North Carolina, beats it by 30 plus. Big momentum. Next game, the tournament gets canceled. So we never really saw what happened. Now, this year, same game, in the sequence of the tournament, massive win against Florida State, big momentum after a couple of bad losses. And now really excited to play against a Duke team that we had no success with this year, with momentum, and then boom, win gets pulled out of it. At the end of the day, you can look at the play and make it what it is, which wasn't much. There isn't a person in the game who played it, a person on Duke who played it, who thinks that this is a good idea. So it boils down to, maybe tripping a rule. I think one of the challenges was there was kind of like no other intermediate penalty. He's not coming back next year. You couldn't suspend him for the first game next year. You couldn't do any, it's not like you could say, well, he's in the penalty box for 5 minutes. So there really isn't any other penalty, and it made a big deal. So maybe there's I don't know the exact rule, like if he tripped an exact rule that's required to have a suspension or not. When you compare it to, other incidents, it's really like as puny as it can be. But the flip side is the results for Syracuse is, catastrophic. Leading scorer in the league gets suspended for the, their toughest game of the tournament. And, so it's hard to justify if you're anybody but a bureaucrat reading a rule.
Yeah, and you said it, and that's the reality of it. And JB Reafsnyder talked about the fact that, if these aren't, these are people making decisions that didn't play the game. Katie talked about it. A lot of these people haven't played the game. And the only thing when you say it tripped a rule, potentially, I look at the flagrant 1, flagrant 2. If a flagrant 1 was called, it's unnecessary contact. A flagrant 2 is unnecessary and excessive, and that can result in an ejection or possible suspension. The problem is nothing was called on the floor. So how do you go from a nothing call to, all right, well, he's suspended a game? That's where this gets really confusing, because it looks like the ACC is going, well, it's a flagrant 2, and it was called a flagrant 2, and so we're going to suspend him a game. It wasn't called anything. It wasn't called a butterfly. It wasn't called a dust settling on your nose. So, I think that's where it is is the ACC making a decision based on something that they found to be pertinent? It was a no call in the game, and the officials didn't see it, or if they saw it, they didn't, whatever, they let it go. So, how do you go from a nothing call to a something, and how much does social media play into this? And is the ACC riding a dicey world where they've kind of told social media now, hey, if you put up a big enough stink, we'll make a decision based on you guys and not based on the actual run of play?
Well, and I haven't seen If they've even released it, I haven't seen any of the justification of what the actual rule is. There was an incident in the NBA playoffs several years ago. Steve Nash with Phoenix as they're playing against San Antonio. Amari, if you remember this, Amari Stoudemire is about to check into the game. It's a critical game in the series. And then Robert Horry drives Steve Nash into the scorer's table. Amari's standing right there, and he steps one step onto the court and steps back. And because it happened right in front of their bench. Nothing for San Antonio because their bench was all the way on the other end of the court, and it wasn't immediate, and it wasn't their guy. But the rule was if you step onto the court, there's a specific rule that it's an automatic suspension. So Amari gets suspended. Suns lose the series. Very similar, timing type situation. But there was an exact rule, and David Stern came out and said, I wish it wasn't the rule, but it was the rule. And we can change the rule, but for this instance, I have to follow a specifically, a clearly defined rule with a very specific outcome, and my hands are tied. Now, I haven't seen that here. Again, maybe it's been put out and it's early in the morning. I haven't been out looking yet. But I haven't seen the ACC come out and said, Rule 27.6 says that if you close your hand and make contact, it's an automatic suspension. I don't know. Is that a rule? If not, I'm the guy who would err on the side of how do I get the guy in the game, and this is the ACC tournament after all, and it is Syracuse and Duke the last time ever. So, again, I don't know. It's obviously a galactic shame for Syracuse fans, and obviously the team, right? And I don't think I can overstate that. And for Duke fans, frankly, Krzyzewski came out. He doesn't want to play against, a diminished team. He wants guys giving it their all and earn what he gets. So, and there isn't a player who's involved who says this is a good idea. There isn't a player who saw it who said this is a good idea. So, I'm not sure who it was that said this is a good idea. But it's he can't find too much support for it.
No, and the thing is, if you go to the ACC.com and you look on their website, there's not a single even mention of the suspension of Buddy Boeheim. And I'm going through all their news articles and around the ACC and their top headlines and whatnot. There's nothing here to even suggest that they suspended him. So, it's a rule that comes down. But, Danny, how much of this do you think is that? How much of the is this world that we live in today where you have to, retroactively try and go back and fix everything because somebody saw it? We live in a world where, there's someone sitting in a chair doing nothing else with their lives than to go to a bunch of random Twitter accounts and take screenshots of all your posts from 5 years ago.
Right.
Living in that world, what is your take on the fact of kind of what this is? Because it's a no call, somebody caught it, somebody shares it, another person shares it, another person shares it, and here we are. Is Buddy... Now, Buddy was 100% wrong for making his decision. He knows it was wrong. He knows he shouldn't have punched the guy. He understands that. At the same time, are we living in a society where you can just share it, and then there's that retroactive, okay, well, let's go back and let's save face and let's do something because we don't want people to be mad at our organization? I don't know why the ACC made this decision, because if they're suggesting that there's not any, hits back and forth between Duke and North Carolina, if there's no games like JB talked about with a bloodied Eric Montrose, or, when Tyler Hansbrough, I think, had his nose broken and was trying to shoot free throws, there's multiple instances of different things. Grayson Allen, the last time the ACC tournament was in the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, Grayson Allen, as I said earlier in the show, had one of two things. Either he had involuntary muscle spasms every single time with his leg, or he tripped people for fun. So, a lot of things have never been called. Buddy knows it was wrong. But in the world we live in today, is Buddy a victim of society saying you're not allowed to ever make a mistake? Because it seems like there's this constant need to find something wrong with everybody. And at this point, if the ACC didn't do anything and the officials didn't do anything, and the ACC's not even headlining the decision that they made or explaining or expressing why they made that decision, is this just Buddy being a victim of making a mistake in a world where you're not allowed to make mistakes anymore?
Well, and obviously you could see the momentum building at the press conference where every question was, trying to get Jim to say, oh, yeah, he was Mike Tyson, blah, blah, blah. And but the thing that's disturbing about this is this concept of game's over, let's go back and search through to see something that, wasn't called, and now let's make a thing of it. Well, that happened in that game. And, it didn't affect anything in the game. Nobody cared about it during the game. And, the guy who it happened to never even mentioned it to his coach to review during the game. I mean, obviously, everyone said, well, better if he just got tossed out, right? It was a 40-point win anyway, and then we'd be done. But and that's the shame of it. You come up with these kind of weird set of circumstances, and the leanings is how can we suspend the kid, not how can we not suspend the kid.
Yeah.
How can we find a way to take something that's nothing and keep it nothing, or something it's a non-issue and keep it a non-issue, especially for the next round. And so if this was an NBA 7-game series, I don't know, maybe it's a different thing because you're playing the same team again and again, where you may have something there, but this isn't, right? So now the fact that and again, hopefully they can, because that would be the bitch of it. If they can't point to an exact rule that required them to do this via the rule that gets them off the hook, then I think they got a bigger problem. If this is somebody's arbitrary kind of decision, and that's why I've been looking, and I'm going to get back and start looking some more to see, well, what are they saying is what exact rule was violated that required them to mete out this specific punishment? And, again, short of that, you almost end up looking worse than if you had not done anything.
Yeah, and speaking here with Danny Schayes, Syracuse Orange men's basketball alum this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora as we are on the road inside the Cafe Cubal studios. The ACC sent out a very simple email to us. It was a couple sentences. This is what it said, Danny. It said the Atlantic Coast Conference today, so that's obviously yesterday, announced a 1-game suspension for Syracuse men's basketball student-athlete Buddy Boeheim as a result of a flagrant act committed during the first half of the Syracuse-Florida State game. Boeheim will miss Syracuse's Thursday ACC men's basketball tournament game versus Duke. So the only thing that they made any mention of is that he is being suspended because of a flagrant act. And so that brings us to flagrant 1 or flagrant 2, both of which were not called in the game. So can you not call a flagrant foul and then say that it was essentially a flagrant 2 because a flagrant 2 can warrant a suspension?
And who interpreted that to be a flagrant 2? Who interpreted that requires him to be suspended? Like, where's that rule clarification? They certainly didn't clarify it in their press release. I haven't seen they've released it since. Is that an appealable process? Is that, there's all these, like I said, how are these things being made? It's such a major issue for this game coming up. You do have, he's always the leading scorer in the league, first team all league. And, so it's not the kind of thing that should be able to be made without a very clear, line of requirement that is the only possible punishment, that should be levied.
Yeah, Wyatt Wilkes, who the, punch to the stomach happened to, Wyatt said, I quote, "I don't think he should be suspended personally," speaking on Buddy. He said, quote, "That's just me. I'm not part of the league doing a review or whatever. Everyone can have their own opinion. I don't think he should be suspended." Why, Wyatt? Why do you think that? I think that because I've been hit with about 30 elbows in my career that were a whole lot worse than that one. I think he felt like I cracked down on him a little hard on the box out. I think the play was clean, but I did box out hard. I didn't want him getting that rebound. You get angry? If you're going to give me something, I'll give you something back. It's basketball. Anyone who's played Division I basketball sees that. In all honesty, I don't think anything of it after the fact. I didn't even know this was a thing until someone told me. It wasn't really that big of a deal. I've been punched. I've been punched in the face. He didn't really punch me. He threw his arm out. We were both unlucky. It caught me in the right spot and knocked the wind out of me for a second. After that, I was fine, end quote. So now you got the guy that it happened to and his coach, Leonard Hamilton of Florida State, going, He should play. This isn't a big deal. And then here's the quote that I've been really honestly making the theme of today. It's not right to do these things. It's not right to use violence. And again, he's even saying it. Buddy didn't do them. I don't think he really punched me. I've been punched before. But he made this statement. It's basketball. Anyone who has played Division I basketball sees that. So Wyatt's turning around and saying, hey, this is how we play. I didn't want him to get the rebound. Maybe, I come in hard. He comes in hard. And I've been punched. I've been punched in the face. He didn't really punch me. So now you got the victim going, it's not a crime. And the ACC is still calling it a crime.
Well, and that's the thing. Look, historically, big guy, cracking on little guy has to stand up for himself or he's going to get drilled every time down the court, right? Nothing new about that. And, he even mentioned, I'm rebounding him hard, boxing him out hard. And there was nothing dirty about the box out. It was just a hard, forearm shiver type box out, right? Because a big part of the game, he's, going after a rebound. So there isn't, they're kind of like working really hard to make something out of nothing. Yeah. And, you don't even have to, have played to go, duh. Really? Like, that's it? And, to sit there, somebody's making the comment, it's like, yeah, you went through a red light camera. Nobody saw it, but now they came and said, well, you really were, we think that you were, driving with, felony DUI with toddlers in the car. So we're going to, throw you in jail for it. It's like, what's that based on, right? It's just, I want to see the specific rule that requires the NCAA or the ACC in this case to suspend Buddy Boeheim for a, clenched fist attack. Short of that, this is an arbitrary decision and, a galactically bad one at that.
Yeah, a decision that, Buddy on his side has admitted it was wrong on his part. I don't condone violence, neither does he. And at the same time, what happened in this game, if this was, and if this was the Big East, it'd be back and forth. But knowing the world that we live in today and this retroactive, like I said, ridiculousness, the ACC just ended Buddy's collegiate career. And I am and some people say, no, Buddy ended it. No. This, you sit Buddy for the first 5 minutes of this game or something like that. And the thing is, I think if you're Coach K, and I look forward to being in the post-game press conference, I don't think Coach K wanted to play against Syracuse with a man down. And
I think he said that already. And he wants a team at full strength. And so again, where is the specific ruling that says, based on this specific rule, requires this specific penalty for this specific action? That I have not seen. I've heard, yes, we decided to suspend him. Who's we? Why did you decide? It wasn't a flagrant act, and certainly not one that rises to the level of suspension. And the incident I issued earlier about the Phoenix Suns and San Antonio Spurs that year, David Stern had an exact rule that he was required to follow, and he wasn't happy about it, but he said, the rule's the rule. So, that's it. I haven't seen that here. I haven't seen, anyone come out and say, per this specific rule, because he had that, specific closed fist, then we're required to issue a one-game suspension. Haven't seen that. If it exists, I'd love to see it, and, that would kind of answer it. Other than that, we're just going back and forth and going, who's the guy who picked social media over, the ACC tournament.
Yeah, and that's essentially where we are. Danny Schayes here with us. A final note here, Danny, inside of the Cafe Kubal studios here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Just your take on, this season. Jim Boeheim has had 45 straight winning seasons. This can go down as a losing season, his first losing season in 46 tries, and people are calling for his head, saying he is not worthy, he shouldn't be the coach. I don't know anyone who's won for 4.5 decades that deserves to be thrown out for their first losing season. I also don't know many coaches who haven't had a losing season within 4.5 decades. So what is your take on this season for Syracuse and on the notion that, I think people talk more about Jim Boeheim's retirement than probably mostly anything. I think in Syracuse, if you pulled the top 3 things talked about, I would say next to gas prices right now, is Jim Boeheim going to retire? Should he retire? I get asked the question 5 billion times a year. So what's your take?
Well, actually, the team had a pretty solid season, but they had a Murphy's Law season. You think after almost 50 years, that's going to happen sooner or later. They lost 4 games where they had the lead with the ball 15 seconds or less, and 2 of those go the other way. And they're 4 games over 500 in the league. They're in 5th place in the conference, and it's a whole different conversation. A couple games got away early. Team played way better later. Then, of course, Jesse Edwards, most improved player in the league, breaks his wrist with 7 games to go. And then kind of thing after thing. So it was really kind of a bad luck season. They did not have what I would consider an awful year. They, like I said, they had some they had one challenge, and that was they struggled against pressure, and that hurt them in a series of games. And like I said, half or the other, they go the other way. And, we're in 5th place in the conference, so and having a whole different conversation. So I don't look at this as a bad year, certainly not a call for your head year. It was, by Syracuse standards, that's how good you are, that if you actually have a 500 year, everyone's, ready to jump off a bridge, right? You're like, look at the season. They, yes, they had some issues specifically against the pressure. Against bringing the ball up against the press. That's that's the one Achilles heel they had. And also for a couple of those games, their backup point guard, Samir Torrance, was in concussion protocol at exactly the wrong time. So again, those, other than that, they win the game. They end the season, with a win at North Carolina and then a win at home against Miami, 3-4 in the conference. So, hard to say it was a throwaway year. It wasn't. They, had a, Buddy Boeheim, first team All ACC, leading scorer in the league. Guys in the top of other categories. And again, the Jesse Edwards injury really knocked the wind out of their sails. They were on actually a big upswing at that point, and have just worked their way, kept their heads up, worked hard every game. And you look at the turnaround. We wondered what team we were going to get against Florida State yesterday after back-to-back devastating losses where they had the lead right at the end and the game slipped away. But then they came out and nobody thought they'd throw a 40 on them on Florida State, who beat them pretty handily a couple weeks earlier. So all in all, the season was a 6, and could very well have been a 7.5, right? But it was a big Murphy's Law year. A lot of bad things happened at the wrong times, and that's where we ended up.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, this is a season, like you said, where things went wrong, and obviously moves were made. There's the last 2 years, a lot of players have exited the program. I look at this team and say, what would life have been like if Quincy Guerrier was on this year's team? So there's just questions that we'll never know the answers to. Danny, a final note here: if Dolph was here to talk with us today, what do you think Dolph would say about the current state of the world of basketball?
Well, I think he'd be excited by it. I mean, it's, in the NBA level, there's a lot of young star players who are putting up some, incredible performances, also players from around the world. I think that, the league's very healthy that way. There's a kind of move away from the big power centers with, Milwaukee winning. We got Phoenix, best record in the league, new, young, exciting talent coming up. So I think he'd be very excited with the state of the game. Obviously a very different game than from his era, pre-3-point line, et cetera, even for him pre-24-second clock. But he was a big fan of the game until the end, and I think that, the way things are going now, he's enjoying it.
Yeah, you had the opportunity to play, at Phoenix. You played in Milwaukee and whatnot. I mean, to see where the world is now in the Eastern and Western conferences, knowing that you played for both of those teams, how far have the Suns and the Milwaukee Bucks come, in your opinion?
Well, that was great because I got to brag no matter who won. And
yeah.
So for me, I was, I was rooting just for a great series, which it was. I love that the Suns are kind of back in it. Chris Paul rejuvenating his career. Devin Booker, great young star. Andre Ayton, gives a new element. And then, of course, you with Giannis in Milwaukee and the pieces that are around him, it just makes them just, every day is an adventure watching them play. The Nets, are they going to put it together? You've got Miami kind of sneaking up on everybody. Then out in the West, you of course got Denver with Nikola Jokic in Denver, my old stomping ground as well.
Yeah.
Talk about a guy who's just flat out fun to watch. He just, everything he does is a head scratcher. You just go, where did he come up with that? And then the Lakers are kind of our reality show this year. So there's just a lot of interesting storylines, and I'm rooting for Phoenix to finally put it together. An organization that has never won a championship throughout their history, and Chris Paul, who's given so much of the game, not only as a great player but the union president, working that. Had some bad luck injuries at the wrong time himself. Throughout his career. So, like I said, a lot of interesting storylines going into these last 20 games, and then we'll see how the playoffs shake out.
Yeah, coming from Danny Schayes, almost 2 decades in the NBA after all his success at Syracuse, and obviously Dolph for everything that he did in his life as well. And no, he's watching kindly over all of us here today. So, Danny, as always, I appreciate the time. I know it's been a minute since we talked, and I hope that minute is a lot shorter until the next conversation, because I'd love to have you back on soon. And I always appreciate your expertise, and I love your question today of show me the rule. And so thank you for what you brought up in conversation, and thank you, as always, for taking some time.
All right, you got it. Thanks, Dan.
All right, take care. That coming from Danny Schayes one more time here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. Plenty more coming up on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. I promise you a jam-packed show speaking on Syracuse basketball, spotlighting the team's 39-point victory, speaking on the Buddy Boeheim suspension, as well as Syracuse Duke Part 3 and how the season has gone thus far. All of this continues after this fast break from inside of the Cafe Kubal studios when we come back with Terrence Roberts. From the West Coast, T-Rob joining us in just a couple minutes here where sports meets life on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Stay with us.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Kubal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafekubal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Kubal needs. Cafe Kubal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. Proud to be here with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And, of course, inside the Cafe Kubal Studios as we are on the road. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, covering the ACC tournament on-site on location, the Big East tournament on-site on location, and covering the American Athletic Conference tournament from afar out in Texas virtually. So big thanks to the AAC, the ACC, and the Big East for the opportunity to be here, and hard work, dedication, and determination. More than anything, a big thanks to God and to everything that God has done in my life to direct my path. So with that being said, I am very happy to continue the conversation that we've had with JB Reafsnyder, Katie Kolinski, and Danny Schayes, with my guy Terrence Roberts, who joins us from the West Coast. T-Rob here with us. Terrence, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. Good morning. Good morning. Appreciate you having me on again.
Absolutely, man. And who would have thunk that last week when we were talking that we'd get to talk this morning about the fact that Syracuse's leading scorer and the top scorer of the ACC is suspended and not able to play in a game where Syracuse needs all the missiles they could possibly have, and now their arguable most consistently big and productive missile is not going to be in the game.
Yeah, it's a tough blow, but at this point, it's just next man up. Hopefully somebody can step up and get the job done in his absence.
You know, and we were talking about it off the air, Terrence. The action was wrong. Obviously, the action was wrong. You got to keep your composure. I never condone violence. I don't think it's, ever okay to result to violence in any way, shape, or form. So, Buddy had a moment. Buddy made a mistake. This isn't who I know Buddy to be, and I've known Buddy for at least 6 years now. So anybody that knows him doesn't question his character. What is your thought on this? I mean, you're a big man. You know what it's like to be bruised underneath. You know what it's like to be hit. You know what it's like to lay a hit and take a hit. So, even though these actions were wrong and Wyatt seemed to, hit him pretty hard initially and kind of create some contact, and then Buddy responded by creating some contact. When you were playing, this was normal life. Not that it was right, because it wasn't, but this was normal life, so it's kind of twofold. It's never right to, cheap shot somebody, and at the same time, the Big East was all about cheap shots, and, UConn and Syracuse and Georgetown and St. John's and Villanova and Seton Hall, is about beating each other up. That's why if you won the Big East tournament, you probably were exiting the NCAA tournament pretty early, except for that one UConn year, because you just, played a 13-round bout against Mike Tyson. So what is your take on this? The fact that it is twofold, violence is wrong, and at the same time, the game used to be a hell of a lot more physical, and officials didn't call a lot of calls when y'all were in the Big East. When I sat there and I went, yeah, I think that's like assault and battery. So.
Yeah, it was a mistake that I'm sure Buddy, now watching the instant replays and the footage of it, he probably regrets. But in the heat of battle, it's a lot of things go on. A lot of things go on in the trenches, and like you said, you really just have to keep your composure, especially when you're in Buddy's position, being the leading scorer in the ACC, being the leading scorer on the team. Like, you really have to hold yourself accountable a lot more than everybody else, because they're going to take shots at you. Like, the better you are, the more shots you're going to take. Like, I headhunted guys when I played. Headhunted. If you was guarding somebody, you was one of the highest scorers on the team, I'm coming to set some of the dirtiest screens possible, because I don't want to have to chase you off of pick and rolls. I don't want to have to, you know what I'm saying? So it was almost to be expected. They kind of baited him into it, but like I said, that's not Buddy's temperament, man. I've known Buddy for 18 years now, so it's, he had one moment, and, everybody's allowed a moment. I had a moment. Everybody has a moment at some point. Forgive and forget, and let's hope the rest of the team can come in and really get the job done in his absence today.
Well, I think the hardest thing for me, and like you said, you've known Buddy for 18 years. I've known him a third of that time, and I have no problem whatsoever, defending his character. What I have an issue with is, in the press conference yesterday, Cole Swider and Joe Girard III were asked, is Buddy a good person? Do you think his character's good? And I was like, you know what? Like, why are you allowed to be here right now? Like, I saw Cole's reaction, and Joe, and it's like, you're attacking a guy for a mistake. And all I could keep thinking about in my head was, may he who is without sin cast the first stone. We live in a society where if you make one mistake one time, you're condemned for life. You're guilty until proven innocent, not the other way around. And I mean, Terrence, again, Buddy was wrong. I want to be clear. He knows it. I know it. You know it. He was wrong. At the same time, this is a mistake, a tiny microcosm of the bigger Buddy Boeheim world, where Buddy is like the nicest, kindest, sweetest. He's just a good human being. What I can't stand more than anything is that people are literally attacking his character and who he is as a man because of one 3-second moment.
Right. And that's just, that's the media. That's kind of what the majority of the media gets paid to do. They want to crucify the people that sit on the mantle. You know what I'm saying? So if a guy is top of the food chain on the team and he's done nothing wrong in the 4 years that he's been there, and he has one mistake, he does one thing wrong, now they have, everybody's looking for that one story that can change their career, that can, swing the momentum into getting their newspaper read or getting their internet feed clicked on. It's clickbait. That's what everybody's looking for nowadays, So
yeah.
I don't think Buddy or Jim are going to pay any attention to it. And Joe Girard and everybody else, they know. Like, it's just a stupid question, silly questions that they want to get a reaction out of people. They want to divide the team, because the more chaos that is going on within the organization, the more that they have to write about.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I know myself, and I've always been the same. And, for me, I sat in that room like I've sat in that room for 18 years, broadcasting half my life. And I can honestly tell people without any doubt in my mind, I've never been the one to try and ignite this and ignite that. And, and you catch flack for that. I had somebody tell me, like, yo, when you talk to Boeheim, you're soft. I said, what's soft? What is considered soft? Well, you don't ask him why he doesn't play this defense and that. I go, Jim has not gotten off the 2-3 zone for decades. You asking me to ask him
why waste your breath?
Right. So you want me to ask him a question, so he'll scream at me to get what? You know what I mean? It's like, I've known Bay for a decade now, and I have talked to him in his office. I have talked to him by ourselves on the court. I've talked to him at a golf tournament. I've talked to him in press conferences. He doesn't yell at me. I was the first person to talk to him yesterday in the post-game press conference, and the last person to talk to him in the post-game press conference. I wanted to know about Cole Swider's maturation. I wanted to know Cole's thoughts on the team's environment. I wanted to know Joe playing with Symir, because that's what I wanted the whole season. And then Jim gave me more at the end that I didn't even ask for. So, to me, it's like, you have an opinion, come here and take the mic. Go ahead. You got an opinion, come here and take the basketball. Go ahead. But the reality of it all is, we live in society where 99.9% of society comments on life, and 0.1% of society actually lives. You're a 0.1%er. I'm a 0.1%er. Bay's a 0.1%er. Buddy's a 0.1%er. I appreciate the fans that are the fans and show love. And to the fanatics that are mad at their wives and hate their jobs and want to, jump off a cliff, and they come to the game and spend 2 hours screaming at Buddy because their own existence is not something that they appreciate, I would rather those people stay at home, eat their Fruit Loops, and watch the game on the ACC network, because we don't need you in the building. And it gets frustrating to me, Terrence, that this is what it was about. And you want to call me soft because I wanted to talk about basketball after a basketball game? That's fine. Because in my world, my job is to report on the basketball game. My job is not to ask Jim Boeheim what he was doing Saturday night at 5:37 p.m., at Scotch and Sirloin. I mean, that's not my job. And to me, I'm about making the world a better place. building a better world. And I talked to Buddy yesterday, and I didn't say anything that Buddy said to me. Why? Because I don't need to. I know who he is. I defended who he was on my own without him asking me to. And that's, the reality of it all is most of the media is looking for a story. I'm looking to build relationships. I'm looking to create connections, and I'm looking to make this world a better place. And
that'll take you a lot further and a lot quicker than doing it the other way. You know what I'm saying? So kind of guiding yourself through positivity and learning the game the right way and learning how coaches think instead of just trying to be the guy that makes Coach Boeheim cuss during a presser is just so you can get on Sports Center. You know what I'm saying? That nobody wants that. Nobody really cares for that. Especially as an athlete, especially as a coach, that's just a way to get your questions not answered at all.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? Like Boeheim he doesn't, and this is what a lot of reporters don't realize, he doesn't forget the people that ask him stupid questions. He don't forget. You think he's going to forget somebody that's bad-mouthing his son? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You'd be lucky to be let in the building again. Come on.
Well, and the thing is after the fact, you hear, somebody tried to bait him to fight again, and other people have done that. And, you hear the guy after, and he's like, a scout was here, and he was telling me to ask this question, and he said you might get kicked out, but you need to ask it. So I'm like, I've never seen you cover Syracuse before. You came in here because somebody dared you to? This is real life, bro.
They don't live for themselves. They live for other people.
Hey, and that's the thing is I'm like, Jim, I know that, in the world that he lives in, and like you said, he doesn't forget the people that try to fight with him. He also doesn't forget the people that, he respects. He doesn't forget the people that want to talk ball. My dad told me years ago, my dad and I were watching a press conference with Jim on the news. We were watching clips of it. And, as I was working through my profession and whatnot, and my dad said to me, he goes, watch him. Listen to him. He goes, he's telling you how he wants to be interviewed. He's telling you the things that he'll talk about. You see the things that he's not going to get into. And people are trying to force him here, and he's never going to go there. And, he's like, you can interview Jim Boeheim by understanding, and it's with anybody. It's with understanding. Everybody wants, why do you play the 2-3 zone? Why don't you press more? That question's been asked 3 billion times. But the reality of it all, Terrence, is I would like to be remembered by Jim as the guy who worked his butt off, knew what he was talking about, and didn't ask a question that he could answer himself. So, I want to have that relationship with anybody. And when you're the guy who comes into the press conference just to try and make Boeheim fight with you and stir up trouble, nobody remembers your name. They just remember you as a collective group of idiots who tried to disrupt something. I don't remember the names of anybody who asked him about Bernie Fine. I don't remember the names of the people that asked him about Buddy. I don't remember the names of the people that tried to get him to break a microphone. I don't remember any of those people. I never know their names, and I never care to know their names. What I know about Jim Boeheim is, do I agree with everything he does as a coach? No. Do I agree with everything my best friend does? No. So does that mean I don't respect my best friend? No. I respect Jim Boeheim. I don't agree with him on every move he's made. He's not perfect. I'm not perfect. But in the grand scheme of things, I would rather talk to him about basketball. I would rather talk to him about this team playing the best game that they played all season than say, hey, do you think your son's a piece of garbage? Because you know the answer to that question, and you're only asking that question to get a father to lose his composure. That's all you're looking for. It's ridiculous.
That's all it is. They're just trying to have actions. They're trying to cause a reaction by having the action that would force him into responding. But like I said, if you don't know that Jim's smarter than that by now, you think he didn't know there were going to be consequences when Buddy did what he did during the game? He knew that during the game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So he knew what to expect when the presser happened after the game. So he the fact that you sit around and you try to force it out of them, like, you're just wasting your time. You can trick them into answering so many other questions if you just ask the right questions first.
Yeah.
But when you just dive into the most stupidest and most obvious questions just to get a reaction, like, that's how you get blackballed into not ever getting an interview or anything from them, period.
Yeah, and the thing is there's enough stuff to talk about, and there's enough things to I mean, nobody asked him about Frank Anselm yesterday, and he reamed Frank. Nobody asked him about Frank yesterday, and he said, I don't know where Frank has been all year. I don't know who he is. I don't know if it's just because he's young, but he's like, here he goes, he's been invisible, and then here he comes and he's rebounding and doing all this stuff. Like, nobody asked Jim that question, but Jim wanted to talk about it. He wanted to discuss it, and I just remember being with the Orlando Magic and covering them, on site for a couple of years, and still connected with them. But when Dwight Howard was there, and I remember Dwight Howard was such a ham, and like what I thought about Dwight Howard from the 2 years that I was there, it literally felt like through his career, I'm like, this is who I think he is. And cut and paste. He went to this place, he acted like that. He went to this place, he acted like that. Like, I saw the bouncing ball with who he was. They lost a game by like 10 or 12. He missed the amount of free throws that would have tied the game. At the end of the game, the media is standing around his locker in a circle, and he made everybody wait for him because he just needed to be the center of attention. And when everybody's standing around this guy, they literally said, hey, in the second quarter, you had a dunk. What did the dunk feel like? And I looked at him and I went, your team lost by 10. You missed 10 free throws. What are you doing to improve your free throws moving forward? And he looked at me and he goes, really, man? And he looks at the rest of the media like, does this guy know who I am? Like, does he know how this is supposed to go? Y'all are supposed to give me layups and I'm supposed to dunk them. You know what I mean? And I just said to him, I was like, what are you doing to improve this part of your game? I don't want to talk about your dunk in the second quarter. Your team lost. You were a big part of the loss. Describe what's going to happen from here. And he kind of looked at me and looked at them like, man, this guy doesn't know how it's supposed to go. Y'all are supposed to tell me I'm great. I'm supposed to say I know I am. You know what I mean? And I just remember standing there going, Dwight, I'm not going to sit here. You're a grown man. I'm not going to sit here and give you a lollipop when you can't make a free throw to save your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's why I say you really have to learn. Really have to learn what people like and know what you want to get out of them. Some people want to be coddled. Dwight's one of those people that he wants to be coddled and praised, even if he hasn't deserved it, so.
I never, you know what, Terrence, I love you. I do. I consider you a friend. I would never come up to your locker and go, hey, Terrence, you tied your shoelaces tight today. How did that feel? You know what I mean? Like, you ain't never going to get that out of me, but.
Right. I'd probably look at you like you were crazy if you did.
Yeah. One of my favorite moments with the media was Trevor Cooney. And Trevor and I have had a great relationship for really his entire time at Syracuse and since then. Like, we still talk to today. We talked when he was out in Spain and all that. I love Trevor. And one of my favorite players at Syracuse ever. And Trev was at his locker one day, and it was when Chris McCullough went down with the ACL. And everybody expected, not everybody, I didn't, but a lot of people expected Syracuse to lose like the rest of the season. It was like 5 games in. And Trevor had all this media around him, and he was sitting in the chair and he was looking to the ground. He started laughing. And they said, why are you laughing? He goes, no, nothing. Just something in my head. And then they started asking a question, and he laughed again, and they're like, no, why are you laughing? And he goes, I don't need to tell you, whatever. And then he goes, the funny thing is he goes, you want to know why I'm laughing? He said, most of y'all wrote your stories before the game happened, and we just won, and now y'all can't print anything you wrote. And I remember that moment where I was standing right to his left shoulder. I texted him coming out of that game, and I was like, I wanted to shake your hand, give you a big hug right after that. I was so proud of you. But he got to that breaking point where he was like, I don't care what anybody says about us anymore. I know who I am. I know who we are. And I love the fact that you guys have to go out here and hit delete on all your stories because you can't write it today. And Trev was one of the most loved, hated players at Syracuse. And, it's just, it's Terrence, when you're in the world that I live in and you actually try to be a good person, you see that, like, y'all make mistakes. No, you never had a great game every night. Trevor didn't have a great game every night. Buddy doesn't have a great game every night. It wasn't even Buddy's game against Florida State. It was Cole's game. It was Joe's game. It was Symir's game. So, that's the reality that we live in. But I've always told people, you can constructively criticize something where you can say something that is constructive. It's still criticism, but you still have respect, where a player wants to talk to you, where you can tell them, because listen, if they didn't play well, they already know. So you already know when you're at your locker that you didn't play well in the game, Terrence. But if I want to talk about, hey, Terrence, for the last 3 or 4 games, his rebounds have gone down, and I want to constructively talk about it and say, like, this needs to improve and find a positive silver lining to it, there's a way to talk about a player and a team where you still have the respect of the player and the team. And the way to live in that world is to actually care about the people you're writing about, because when you don't, it's easy to lose sight of that. But I'm saying this because I want to be clear about this. Buddy Boeheim is a savior to this team for the entire time that he's been there. He was told for years, you're only on the team because Daddy lets you be on the team. He was disrespected, pushed down, treated like he was a nothing. This man, when he's up, everybody wants to write up stories. When they're down, everybody wants to write down stories. And I just want people to understand the fact that there's a way to talk about people that you would want them to talk about you. If they came to your job, would you want them to come to your cubicle, throw all the stuff off your desk and tell you that you ain't worth anything? Or would you like them to give you some constructive criticism on how you can get better? And I feel like that's a lost art in the media because people care more about the story than they care about the people.
Yeah. And that's how it is. And that's what sucks. That's what really sucks about sports is, like, people don't really understand people. You know what I'm saying? People are just looking for stories. People are just reaching. Everybody just wants to be famous instead of doing their job well. Everybody wants to be in the limelight. It's just like bad referees. Bad referees want to be the sixth man on the court all the time. They want to be a part of the conversation.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of the media do. They want to be a part of the conversation. Listen, but like you said, Buddy spent 4 years getting beat up by everybody because of who he is. And not once did he falter. And then when he has one moment, you're gonna crucify him? You have one moment in 4 years. You know how many moments I had in 4 years?
Yeah.
A lot more than that.
Yeah. I remember you, man. I remember you, man. I remember, I remember that foul trouble. You know what I mean? And I mean, that's the thing is, you get frustrated, and the thing is, Wyatt Wilkes, who it happened to, he said, he goes, I've been punched worse. I've been punched in the face. I don't even know if he punched me. Even Wyatt's going, let the man play. Like, I don't get the big deal about this. Leonard Hamilton's like, I know the family, let the man play. It's where did this come from? And Danny Schayes brought up a great point. He said, where is the actual literature in the ACC law that states that because he closed his fist, that this warrants to be this? They called it a flagrant act, which, okay, flagrant 1, excessive. Flagrant 1 is unnecessary. Flagrant 2, unnecessary and excessive, could be a suspension. They didn't call either one of those in the game. I don't know how you can go back into a game, watch it on film, and go, hey, we didn't call this foul in the game, but we have to suspend him. Like, that to me is just it's taking something that was called nothing and then calling it a flagrant act. Okay, so if it's a flagrant act that none of your officials saw, are all those officials suspended because they all missed the play? I mean, that's
how I feel. Like, how come there's no penalty for them? That's like back in the day, how players can transfer when they want, but they were penalized and had to sit out an entire year. But a coach can join a program and the program be good, but then they decide they get a better offer to go coach at Kentucky or wherever, and they just up and leaving the whole program in dismay and they get to coach the next year. They don't get to sit out, and they double their pay. Like, how is that fair? You know what I'm saying? The coaches ain't out there playing the game.
Yeah.
If they did play the game, they'd lose every game. So, like, how is that fair? And it took what? How many years for that to it took eons for that to come to fruition, where the players can go transfer and not have to sit out a year. So, you know, it's just it sucks that, you know, refs aren't held accountable the way they should. It sucks that Buddy was they tried to make an example out of him. For what? I have no idea. But, you know, I always feel like certain people have it out for Jim and what he's got going, and they've had it out for him for a while. It's been like that since we've been in the Big East. So when the NCAA tournament, just you think about my senior year when we should have been in a tournament. It made no sense why we weren't in a tournament. We were fifth in the league, and the teams that were sixth, seventh, and eighth get in, and we don't.
Yeah, I remember.
Or something like that. Like, that doesn't make sense.
No, and I remember, you know, Syracuse not getting in the tournament, and Indiana had 18 wins, and Duke had like 19, and Syracuse had 20. And they're like, oh, Indiana deserves to be. I remember one time they were at, it was a direct question that was asked to the NCAA, to the selection committee, why did you not put Syracuse in? And his response was, the games, it was hard, you know, it was just a difficult decision, and things are tough, and it's a hard decision to make. And I'm going, this man did not answer the question. They said, why did Syracuse not get in? Right. And that's the thing, is if you can't back me up with factual evidence as to why, and that's what Danny Schayes said, show me the rule. Show me what happened. Show me that this isn't just we went back and watched this on Twitter trying to save face. And by the way, ACC, Grayson Allen was tripping people like it was his job, and nothing was called. The last time they were at the Barclays Center for the ACC tournament, I say it over and over again, unless Grayson Allen has involuntary muscle spasms, that man's leg went out on purpose over and over and over and over again. And he could be injuring people, he could be snapping ankles, he could be messing with ACLs and MCLs and PCLs the way he was playing the game, and ain't nothing was called at that time. And, you know, and that video was shown over and over and over and over and over and over and over again on Twitter, but nothing happened. So it's, you know, it's just... Listen, was Grayson right? No. Was Buddy right? No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying Grayson was wrong, Buddy was wrong. Buddy got punished, Grayson did not. So it makes me sit here and say, why do we live in this world where if you consider this a crime, then this needs to be a crime? And I want the ACC to know something. Now that you've done this to Buddy, you best darn well do this to every single player, whether you call the foul or not. You better all be on Twitter, better all be trending on that Twitter, and everybody better be watching it on the Virginia Techs and the Dukes and the North Carolinas and the Louisvilles and it better be on everybody now, because you best believe that if I don't see this or any other call like this, if I don't see anybody else get suspended, we're going to talk just about, and how about the fact Jim Boeheim, 101 wins taken away. And you know what I said in a conversation with people from Louisville and Virginia yesterday? I said, how do you take 101 wins from Jim, but you didn't take the losses that year? So you told him none of the games existed, but his losses were okay and his wins weren't. If the games didn't happen, then the games didn't happen. But so you want to take his wins and you want to lower his winning percentage and you want to retroactively take that away. But what happened to Roy Williams? Nothing. What happened to John Calipari? Nothing. What happened to Rick Pitino? Not much. And, and I'm sitting here, you look at UConn won a championship with Jim Calhoun while they were being investigated, and nothing happened there. So Jim's had a smaller sin, but he's paid more of a price than anybody else. And that brings up the question that people always ask, like you did. Who has it out for Boeheim and why?
That part. It's exactly that. Like I've been saying that for years. I don't know what he did in the past life or in this life, but they got it out for him, and I don't know why. It's so weird, man.
Listen, it's crazy, but they got to play the game. T-Rob, what's your advice to the team as they get set to face off without Buddy Boeheim? What do you want to tell Syracuse?
Next man up. Next man up. The game's got to be played. Go out there and give it your all. Play the game like it's an NCAA tournament game, and it's win or go home. Duke is not untouchable. Duke can be beaten. They got a bunch of young guys. You just got to believe in yourself more than everybody else do, and play hard, play smart, play together, and hope that we can get it done.
That coming from Terrence Roberts. T, I appreciate you, as always, being a part of the show, and thank you for everything that you do to be a part of it. Appreciate your friendship more than anything else, and just thankful that you and I got to talk about real life, really, more than anything today. And, you know, we repped about the fact that, like, again, may he who does not have sin cast the first stone. And if any of y'all pick up a stone, you better have deleted all your Twitter accounts before you pick that stone up. As always, Terrence, I appreciate you and love talking with you, man. I look forward to having you back on soon.
No problem, man. Good talking to you. I'll see you next time.
All right, take care. That coming from Terrence Roberts. Once again, we'll take our final step aside on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. Thank you so much for being here with us inside the Cafe Kubal Studios. We'll be back right after this with Dale Shackleford.
Cafe Kubal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafekubal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Kubal needs. Cafe Kubal, coffee for the soul.
This is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating. Find them at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and all the time online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, you can order all throughout the country at maandpaspopcorn.com. And remember to get your tins, which have in-store half-price refills forever. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, available to you for fundraising and all of your events by calling 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you? Yeah. Here with the Millhouse Market, 3790 New York, 13 in Pulaski, New York. Worth the drive every single time. Make sure you make your way out to the Millhouse Market every Tuesday through Sunday to enjoy all that they have to offer for you for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They have their indoor dining bistro menu that changes every single week to come back and try something new. They also have their general store with local products from local companies, locally made jewelry, soaps, syrups, honeys, and so much more, paying it forward and helping out the community in a very special way with their Millhouse Market stamp on it, and everything that Millhouse does also with their drive-thru window. You grab your food and go. You could download their app at the Millhouse Market on the Google Play or Apple App Store. Once you have it, you'll have the entire menu at your fingertips. You'll also have the opportunity for contactless pay. You can tip on the app, and you can get directions from wherever you are to the Millhouse Market right on the app itself. So make sure you download that today. Pick your new favorite. I love the Bee Sting Pizza. I love the Margarita Pizza. I love the Breakfast Pizza. I am a huge fan of the Meatball Sub, the Cobb Salad, the M&M Cookies. Literally, my biggest problem with the Millhouse Market is how long it takes me to order because I want everything. And I'm not kidding about that. You know that I tell you exactly how I feel. I want the Millhouse Market in my life right now. There is no better sandwich. Just an incredible place. So make sure you head out there today. 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York. Worth the drive every time. With that being said, we're back here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Cafe Kubal studios. Under promise, over deliver. We got some extra time here this morning. We're less than an hour until tip-off, so I'm going to be heading over to the game in Brooklyn here at the Barclays Center, and I'll be covering that on-site on location as Syracuse takes on Duke in the quarterfinals of the ACC tournament. I'll also be at the Big East tournament today, and I'll be covering the American Athletic from afar as Wake Up Call is on the road. But before we get to that, from inside the Cafe Kubal studios, I could not have this show without having one of my close friends on the broadcast, and he's actually marked down in my equipment here as Original Shack. Not Dale Shackleford. Original Shack is his like hotkey button. So with that being said, I welcome my good friend and Syracuse Orange alum back to the show, and the man who's responsible for giving me an assist, which he gets to add to his Syracuse record books, because on the day we met, he gave me the ball on Jim Boeheim court, and I hit a fadeaway from the right side of the free throw line, which means Dale's statistics have gotten one better. Dale Shackleford here with us. Shaq, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Dan. Long time. I'm glad to be back on the show with you, and I miss you like a brother.
Yeah, and I miss you too, man. I mean, I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy for you making the decision that so few make when And I was just talking to my girlfriend about this. I'm like, I said one of my closest friends, is there with his girlfriend, and he loves her, she loves him. They trust each other. They trust that love. They trust the relationship, and they looked at each other and said, "Hey, we just went on a trip to Florida. I'd like to move here." Well, I'd like to move here too. And then you went back home and said, hey, are we going to be like everybody else who says it and then dies before it happens, or says it and then waits until, you're in your 80s and whatnot? And you both said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to go after what we want. And you both made a decision and took a leap that so few people make, but so many people talk about. And I use that as, a compass when, I need to remind myself of the fact that if you want something, you got to go out there and comfortable in order to get comfortable. So just so you know, Dale, as much as we may be 1,000 miles or so away from each other, I am always moved by who you are as a person, and always value our friendship. And I'm so happy and appreciative of the fact that you're one of those people out there that doesn't talk about it, but you are about it. And those are the only people I want to surround myself with. So thank you for being an inspiration, even when you don't even know that you are.
Well, I appreciate it, Dan. It's one of those things where, as you said, we always say we want to do this, want to do that, and we never get around to doing it. And it doesn't matter if you're financially stable or unstable. You get that opportunity, you can always set up roots somewhere else. And that's basically what we did. We just moved everything, and we came down, and we took our chances. And right now, everything's panned out great. As I told you before, I got in contact with Coach Fine, and he put me in contact with some schools and coaches that were looking for help with their staff and everything. And I got lucky. And then from there, coaching at Cardinal Gibbons High School, I got involved with Marcus McGee, who runs the South Florida pro travel team and stuff, and I got involved with him. So we're doing a lot of tournaments around the state of Florida, and he's keeping me real busy. So it was a great move. I enjoy being back involved with basketball a lot with young men and women, and I'm enjoying life and doing something I love doing and working on my tan.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you get to do that, and you get to go out there and enjoy life and have the fun that you're having, and I'm so happy for you. And that's the thing, when you care about people and you have really good friends, you want to see everybody eat. And I love that you're coaching. I love that you're doing clinics. I love that you're broadcasting and doing a show. And at the same time, I miss you like crazy, and I just want to know when the next, Dale and DT show is going to be. That's what I want to know.
Well, we gotta get something soon. Things are gonna get hot and heavy here in the next couple weeks. I don't know if you guys know Ben Bellucci from Syracuse area. He's got clinics going on in Cicero and that with Preston Shumpert and a few other guys, and he's down here in South Florida now because he's training a couple of NBA players, and he just reached out to me a few days ago about doing some clinics with him in the schools, the elementary schools in this area, trying to build a program like he has up in Syracuse. So it's getting busy. I don't mind it, and I keep telling Crystal, I came down here with the mindset of playing a lot of golf, and ends up being involved in a lot of basketball. And my forte here is I coached defense a lot with Cardinal Gibbons when I first was there, and even this past season. And everybody's buying into that. So right now I'm sort of a hot commodity as far as that's concerned. The defensive part of the game, and trying to motivate some of these young kids.
Yeah, and I love it, and I'm so excited for you and everything that you have to offer, and I'm very happy that things are going well. And so, with that being said, Dale, I do want to get your thoughts on what's going on here. I know you've been busy like crazy, so you haven't been able to see everything, but you had the opportunity to watch the game yesterday, and you got to see Syracuse take on Florida State, arguably play their best game of the season, so a great time to watch. They won by 39 points, and after that, we saw the fact that, here we are. And Buddy Boeheim, he reacts. Now, when you were playing, you guys did this, right? You hit each other, you punched each other, you kicked each other, you set hard screens and whatnot. Buddy retaliated to, something that Wyatt had done. Wyatt talked about it after the game and said, I don't think what I did was that bad. I don't think what Buddy did was that bad. He should play. I'm not condoning violence. I'm not condoning that Buddy should turn around and hit him like that. I'm not condoning that Wyatt should bump into him the way that he did. It happened, but a one-game suspension for a no foul, to me, it's like taking a literal molehill and turning it into a mountain. Just what your thoughts are on the fact that Buddy Boeheim gets suspended for something that was not even called. And the ACC put out a release calling it a flagrant act, yet neither a flagrant 1 or a flagrant 2 were called in the game. A flagrant 2 would warrant a potential suspension, but it wasn't called. So how do you suspend somebody for a foul that was never called, I guess is the question.
Well, the whole situation there is with all the media hype. They replayed that probably about 40 times on TV throughout the game yesterday, and then all day last night and this morning. That's all you see on TV. So the ACC felt that they had to do something about it. I don't think that it was just because if the officials didn't call it, then it shouldn't be called. And within the minutes that was in the game, within the realm of the game, if that incident wasn't called, then there should have been nothing against Buddy. But in saying that, the league has gotten in a situation where they're trying to avoid fights and things like that. So I understand that, there might have been an argument to where it could have led to a fight or something. Okay. But if you're going to do that, if you're going to go by what the TV is putting out there over and over and over again, then you might as well review every game that was played this year and see if you can see somebody punch somebody and it wasn't called. And then suspend those games also, because that's basically what they did. They just went back into the video of the game and watched it over and over and over again, and then they made their decision. If you don't see that as the officials with your naked eye to call that, then the game should go on. The worst thing they ever has done in basketball is they took the integrity of the officials away by having those reviews.
Well, and that's
where we're at right now.
And the thing is, this wasn't even an in-game review. When Wyatt went down on the floor and fell to the ground and was laying on the ground, they didn't even review it then. Right. So I mean, to me, it's just, is it okay to do what Buddy did? No. Is Buddy sorry? Yes. But at the same time, it wasn't called. And you bring up a great point, Dale. If we go and we fine-tooth comb Division I men's basketball this season, I'm willing to put $1 billion down that we find at least one punch or one illegal hit. I'm sure we're going to find something. You know what I mean? Like, just like they say in football, there's holding on every play. It's just when it gets called. So, the reality to me is if they think that nobody else did it, and again, Grayson Allen tripping people like crazy the last time the ACC tournament was at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. I was here for it, saw it firsthand. Nothing happened to Grayson Allen. So, it's just, if you're going to punish somebody, make sure you punish everybody who's doing it. And because now the question's going to be, well, what happens when it happens in a game today? What happens when somebody... See, that's to me how God works. That's how things happen, is like, you kind of like, once something happens, it kind of all gets unveiled. And I feel like somebody's going to get like hit today, and then I'm going to go, okay, is that a suspension? Nope. Okay. All right. Well, then you were out for Buddy.
Exactly.
Buddy knew he was wrong, and at the same time, I don't agree with the way Wyatt played in that moment. I don't agree with the way Buddy played in that moment. And I don't agree with the fact that, there was a few years ago where Gonzaga and North Carolina were playing for a national championship, and they weren't even like hurting each other. They weren't doing anything nasty. They were just being physical, and the officials called about 15 extra fouls they didn't need to call, and it changed the whole scope of the game because you couldn't be physical. And I think it ultimately took Gonzaga out of the game because of how physical their bigs are. So, it's just, Dale, to me, if we're going to go back in life and we're going to replay something and we're going to make punishments back in the past, then everybody's going to be guilty. And by the way, all of you on Twitter that shared that video, if we all went back on your life and played the tape of your life, y'all be in trouble too.
Yeah, exactly. But something that's been happening all year long, and I know that with Buddy, the frustrations is built up. You got guys that are out there, just gunning for them. They're going to get physical with them. They're going to give them cheap shots that may not be called and may be called. And Buddy has got to be in a situation where he's got to hold his composure. He's just going to keep playing. But in saying that, I'm going to go back when we played. With Roosevelt and Marty Burns, myself and Louis Orr, Chris Cease, Marty Head, Hal Cohen, Eddie Moss. These guys would say, hey, this guy's holding me. This guy gave me a cheap shot. Okay, run him off a screen on us and let us take care of him. We'll put him on his ass or we'll make him change his mind about putting his hands on you again. I've given a lot of cheap shots, and, I talked to Roosevelt last night, the things that we used to do in games and stuff, and, that, it got away from is now that, after talking to a couple of coaches last night, they're saying that, well, the rule has changed because they don't want it to escalate into a fight. So if you're saying that, if nothing's seen and nothing was malice in the situation with Buddy, why are you going back and reviewing the incident because it was thrown in your face 100 times?
Well, the thing was, it didn't lead to a fight. So if the whole point of your rule is to not lead to a fight, it didn't lead to a fight. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it didn't lead to anything. Nothing happened. So, and it's just, and they won by 39 points. It didn't affect the game. It just, to me, it just, again, Terrence Roberts brought it up. He's like, it just seems like Boeheim and Syracuse get punished more. And John Calipari doesn't get punished. Roy Williams doesn't get punished. Grayson Allen never got punished. So, Christian Laettner doesn't get punished. So, it's just, again, if this is your rule and this is what's wrong, then it needs to be wrong. But the ACC has failed to tell us how this was a flagrant act when it wasn't a flagrant act, and to really show us exactly what he did that made them make a decision. And that's the question that I want to ask. And it's just unfortunate. And I talked to Boeheim, Cole Swider, and Joe Girard III in the post-game press conference yesterday. First question and last question. People can go back and watch it. I talked to them about basketball. And, I just, for me to watch this team and to see this team this whole year, I know they just played their best game. And I know that being around Joe and being around Cole, I can't speak for them, but I can say that I would imagine them sitting up on that podium feeling great about, hey, we finally played a game like that. And then nothing was about that after the game, which I think was a travesty to the guys that were in the game playing the way that they did.
Yeah, and and for anybody to sit there, when they're in that press conference after the game, to bring that question up to them after you saying and me hearing people say that was the best game that they've seen Syracuse play all year, to try to overshadow it with the incident with Buddy. And that's and I'm going to be honest with you. I talked to Roosevelt about it last night. There were a lot of reasons, a lot of things that happened when we played together. Now, I went through this when Leo Reynolds was playing at Syracuse, and I got into an argument with Bob Snyder because a week before the game, or this particular game, Leo had a bad game. Okay, so he got trashed in the newspapers. So now at the home game, I was happened to be in the locker room, and Bob Snyder was trying to talk to Leo and everything because Leo had a good game. And I said to Leo, I said, why would you bother even talking to this guy after he trashed you in the paper last week, and now all of a sudden he wants to get a goody story from you? I said, I wouldn't even talk to him. And Bob yells to Boeheim, Coach, can you get him out of here? And Boeheim looked at him, and he looked at me. He turned around and just walked away. Because that's the way I was when I played. I said, if you can't write anything good about us when we lose, then don't try to write anything good about us when we win. I don't even want to talk to you. If you can't talk to me when we lose, I don't want to talk to you when we win. And that's the bottom line. You write what you want to write, you say what you want to say, but don't be two-faced about it. And that's where me and Mike Waters don't see eye to eye also. I know you want to sell papers and you want to get your stories out there, but you can do it a better way than that. And you don't beat somebody down just to get a story. Because the bottom line is, the papers aren't selling anyway. So, most people are getting their information online or listening to, your show or other shows. So that's not, something for a news guy to go out and, basically dig for something that, really isn't there.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that's it, and it's hard. It's really hard for me, to have to, deal with that, and yesterday in the post-game press conference, it was just a reminder to me of who the media, who they are and who I am not. And I called my dad after, and I was like, I have a lot of words for these people, and I just need to get out of the room. Because, it's just, and to question his character, to question Buddy Boeheim's character. Man, I know the people in the media make mistakes because they make them in front of me all the time. So, Buddy had a moment, and the guy who he did it to said it didn't even matter. It wasn't even a moment. And Leonard Hamilton goes, who cares? It's not a big deal. So, you got the victim, right? Everybody cares about the victim. No, you don't. You just want something bad to happen. You just want something bad to happen. You want to show that you can get Boeheim, you can get this, you can get that. And to me, it's wrong. It's ridiculous. Buddy made a mistake. I know Buddy, and Buddy and I talked after the incident. And I don't need to share that with anybody because I care about Buddy. And all I can tell you is he was sorry. He's a good man. He's learning from it. And, it's just he is not who people say he is. And it just frustrates the heck out of me, Dale, that I'm sitting here like, wow, Syracuse just blew the roof off the Barclays. They've never played like this in the ACC tournament, no matter if it's in Washington, if it's in Brooklyn, if it's in Greensboro, if it's in Charlotte. They've never played like this. They lost every time they were in the ACC tournament for the majority of the first part of this decade. They lost every game. And then they finally won, and then they win by 39 against Florida State. And Florida State's a good team, and they had an off-shooting night, but they got 7-footers, and Leonard Hamilton's one of the most tenured coaches in the ACC, and he's a lot better than people give him credit for, and he sends guys to the NBA. And I'm like, wow, this is a great win. Wow, this is momentum. Wow, this should make them feel good. Wow, Jim Boeheim's brought some life into this team. Wow, this team is playing for each other. Patty Casey went out and scored. Crystal Val came out and scored. Chaz Owens, Billy's son, came out and dunked the ball home. I'm thinking, this is all feel good, feel good, feel good. This is a great moment for Syracuse basketball. And then somebody says, do you think Buddy's a bad person in the post-game press conference? And I almost walked out. And
well, if you've known Buddy for, I mean, I've known him since he was a baby, and seeing him grow up and the way he is, I mean, he's the nicest guy in the world. He's the softest guy in the world. As much as he's gotten beaten up over the course of his career in college,
yeah.
And if I'm going to be honest with you, if Buddy would have hit me like that, I would have looked at him like, what is that, like a little fly flying into you or something? I mean, it's not like he, wound up and, punched the guy really hard in the gut. He just turned and, gave him a little, I thought, hit him with a little closed fist or whatever off to the side of his hand. It wasn't straight on or anything. And it was in the rotation of him turning his body going back up the floor.
Oh, yeah. And Wyatt said, he goes, I don't even know if he punched me. He's like, I've been punched before, and that didn't even necessarily feel like a punch. He's like, he caught me perfectly. He knocked the wind out of me for a minute, and that was the only thing I could say. I'm like, when he got hit like that, I'm like, wow, he must have hit him in such a way that he knocked the wind out of him. And that was it. I mean, I've had the wind knocked out of me, and and it sucks in the moment, but I think the big thing is, was Buddy right? No. Was Wyatt right? No. Is the ACC right for suspending Buddy? No. And you better retroactively go back and suspend Grayson Allen. Oh, you can't suspend Grayson Allen? Well, then suspend Coach K. Say, you know what, Coach K? You had Grayson Allen on your team. He was tripping people like crazy. So now Coach K... Yeah, and so now Coach K, now you can't coach this game. I mean, it's just... It's ridiculous that, there's a separate set of rules for everybody, and they change all the time. And that's what, with the NCAA and with college basketball and college athletics in general, that's why I don't listen to a lot of this garbage, because the rules change depending on who it is, when it is, where it is, and your relationship with that person. These rules are never, ever the same for every group. There's not a, if you do this, then this happens for everybody. And so I'm not going to take you seriously unless you start taking yourself seriously. So in the reality of the fact is, I've never seen anybody suspended for a game in the middle of a tournament like this, and you decided to make Buddy the sacrificial lamb. So now please be advised that I'm going to be watching every hit on everything right now, and you better suspend every single player that does the exact same thing. I know you won't, but I suggest that you do.
Right. Granted, Syracuse has got a long shot to win the game today, but guess what? Let them be at full strength and show that they can play well against good teams, and that's where the bottom line is, hey, this should open up situations for other guys, because there's not going to be a lot of pressure on Buddy, to score. And, the other guys are going to get opportunities that, they probably wouldn't have gotten if Buddy was there. But, they still got to play. Just go out and play the game. And, you got to put that in the back of your mind. You worry about that, after this game's over.
Yeah. Just go out and play. Still got to strap them up. Dale, as always, thank you for everything. I know we spent a few minutes today. Love to get you on very soon. Appreciate everything that you're doing. Love you, and you are my brother, my family. So thank you for everything on and off the court, and thank you for the assist that you gave me on Jim Boeheim court when we met, and I look forward to talking with you soon.
All right, Dan, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, and enjoy the game today. Go Orange.
All right, talk soon.
All right, bye.
Take care. That coming from Dale Shackleford one more time on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. I got to head over to the game, folks. We gave you some extra time, which means that I got to run. So with that being said, thank you so much for tuning in on YouTube, Facebook, and mixlr.com, all /WakeUpCallDT, Facebook.com/LiveNowDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.com. You can search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT, on Stitcher, TuneIn, Podbean, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, and MixLR. And a big shout out to all of our proud partners in Central and Upstate New York and beyond: Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, Wildcat Sports Pub, Avicoli's Canine Camp Dog Daycare, PB&J's Lunchbox, Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. Go to maandpaspopcorn.com and order from any one of the 50 states today. Honda City of Liverpool, Millhouse Market, Pizza Man, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, Mother's Cupboard, and Wake Up Call is the proud multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne Dolphins, as well as your Marywood Pacers and Bryan and Stratton Bobcats. Find out more information by going to LeMoyneDolphins.com, MarywoodPacers.com, and Syracuse.bscbobcats.com. You can check all of our specials with all three of those fantastic schools by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt and bookmarking us, as well as subscribing. And, of course, you can go to each of their tabs on wakeupcalldt.com, the Lemoyne tab, the Marywood tab, and the BSC SYR tab for Bryan and Stratton Syracuse. With that being said, have a fantastic day. From the Cafe Kubal Studios, this is Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Follow me all day today on Wake Up Call, on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at Call DT, and Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. Big shout out to my guests, JB Reafsnyder, Katie Kolinski, Danny Schayes, Terrence Roberts, and Dale Shackleford. Felt like a week of shows all in one. Have a fantastic, fantastic day.